All right, guys, so what I want to look at today is this idea of power. Now, as an athlete, power is something that gets thrown around a lot, especially in strength and conditioning. And what I want to do today is just break it down to basically the bare minimum of what you sort of got to look at when we look at developing power. And this is really important because when people do power, they often miss those beginning steps. So you can often get a sort of a loss of mechanical energy. And this is where this idea of displacement comes in, which I'll talk about in a second. So firstly, in its basic form, power is equal to force times distance over time, okay? So if you look here, you've got three main components in a biomechanical sense. So what I want to do is show you guys how we can basically cover those three basic factors so that we can really effectively generate power. So when we think about swimmers, we've got block starts, track and field athletes, speed work, all these kind of athletic movements need the requirement of power. So firstly, force. So the development of strength. Yep, so that ability to generate muscular force. Secondly, we've got distance. So the way that we apply distance in strength and conditioning changes, but in this case, we're looking at range of motion. Okay, and then thirdly, time. So the speed of the movement, how quickly you move the bar in a clean. So when we think about a movement, we've got to make sure that we cover those three factors when we're trying to develop power. So firstly, if I'm going to do something like a front squat, yeah. So the first thing I need to look at is making sure I have strength through a movement, okay? So strength through that full range is where that distance comes in. So we've got to get motor unit recruitment from depth and motor unit recruitment all the way through from the top of that squat all the way down to the bottom. And that's how we develop that strength through the full range of motion. And then we can apply speed. There's no point in just starting off with that speed of movement if you haven't got strength through the full range of motion, because that's when we get into this idea of displacement. So if we do a power clean, from the ground, comes up, we catch the power clean. If our bar movement is nice and straight and we've got great efficiency, technically we're good. We've got that idea of distance and that speed. That bar movement goes from point A to point B. What happens is when we're really inefficient, so we're trying to generate that speed of the bar before we have strength through that full range of motion, what happens is we get this loss of energy because the bar path isn't moving efficiently. And now if we look at that and we transfer that to a performance-based idea, then we're looking at that block start in a sprint, okay? So you're losing energy, displacing energy this way because you're not efficient through that movement, so you lose time. If you're a swimmer and you've got to do a block start, same principle. If you're not efficient through that full range of motion and then you develop the speed, then you're going to find that in your block start, you're not going to get out as quick, basically. So what we really need to think about, guys, is getting these basics down, making sure that we think about the requirements of the movement and the muscles engaged so that we can make the movement really efficient. So then when we add speed to the movement, we're getting really good efficiency. And that's where your strength and conditioning comes in. That's where you come and you look at a movement and you say, okay, how can I make this movement more efficient? What muscles do I need to target? And that's when you can then apply it to a performance base. And I think sometimes as strength and conditioning coaches, we get lost a little bit in, okay, this athlete needs power, go straight to power. You've really got to look at movement efficiency, because once that movement is efficient, as soon as you add power, you're going to get this much improvement as opposed to just this much improvement. All right, thanks guys.